And we're live. Awesome. All right, we've got Marcus Mitchum of Mitchum Lawn Care here joining us on the Pet Waste Millionaire podcast. My name is Ben Gonzalez, Vice President of Communications at White Picket Team Management, and the Pet Waste Millionaire EJ McCoy with us. So we're really excited, Marcus, for you being here, man. So we met in Dallas in Plano through the Simple Growth Mastermind group back in was it November?
Yep.
I think it was November of this past year. And dude, you had some really good questions while a couple of keynote speakers had opened up for Q&A. And the first thing that I thought was, this guy genuinely cares about growing his business and taking care of his people. And the second thing, he really likes Jonathan Potoshnik.
Yeah, Jonathan Potoshnik is something else, man. I've been watching him for years. It was accidentally stumbling upon him, just kind of browsing YouTube, and
Yeah.
it was, those early years. I learned that music does one thing for you, but finding educational things to listen to, and Jonathan
Mm-hmm.
just had a way of breaking things down for you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
he's really someone else. And so I am excited for us to talk a little bit about your business, talk a little bit about your journey, what the future looks like, and how things have gone for you. And so, Marcus, would you mind just really quickly give a quick introduction of yourself, where you're located, and what business you run?
Yeah, so I'm Marcus, and I actually started this business off the back of a very small pickup truck with a broom and a borrowed push mower. And I just saw a need and an opportunity, and I had a young family at the time and decided I was going to get going. And in the beginning, it was about making money for myself and surviving, buying diapers and dinner at the end of the night. Um, but at this point, it's really about taking care of other people and helping them to do the
Mm.
exact same thing. And that's one thing that I try to remember every day when I'm dealing with my people is the scared young man I used to be, when I was that age, and the fears that I had. I try to kind of remember that on a daily basis. But yeah, I'm located here in Phoenix City, Alabama. Right, you could throw a rock across a bridge, and you're in Columbus, Georgia. So Columbus, Georgia, Phoenix City, Alabama. Been in the
Okay,
business about
awesome,
20
man.
years now, almost 20 years.
20 years. Wow. Wow, that's great.
hmm
So how many team members do you have?
I think we got about 16 on payroll right now. A couple of them are high schoolers. They come in on the weekends and during summer break. Crazy thing
Mm-hmm.
is, those guys that are coming in really hungry and young like that, they haven't picked up a lot of bad habits, so they can kind of pick up on our system and how
Mm-hmm.
we do things. And it's amazing watching the young people how hungry they are, and it's really cool when you see that guy that kind of reminds you of yourself when you're younger. You can't make him be yourself exactly, but it's really cool, like kind of seeing yourself in their shoes.
Yeah. Man, I remember, I think I was 17 or 18 years old when I first started doing manual labor for a job. Like I was making money working in construction. I was doing some demolition jobs. And I remember being a part of that team, even though it was for, like you said, it was like summer work. Picked up a lot of good habits of work ethic working with some of those people, and I carry a lot of what I learned from those people into today and what I do. So that's awesome that you guys are providing that same level of opportunity for other youngsters to get in there and show them the Mitchum way. Is that a thing?
That's
You should coin it if you don't.
Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome.
Marcus,
Uh, Go ahead.
I want to I want to hear real quick, Marcus. I want to hear more. So you mentioned you were in business. You've been in business almost 20 years.
You're right.
When did you discover YouTube and education through YouTube? We were talking about Jonathan Potoshnik, the Pet Waste Millionaire, a second ago. At what part of your journey did you discover that? Did you discover both YouTube and Pet Waste Millionaire? Excuse me,
Yeah,
Lawn Care
so
Millionaire.
YouTube I got to, I was born in '84, so YouTube became a thing while I was alive, obviously,
Yeah.
and so I knew YouTube well before Jonathan, and it just so happened to be, the system is smart. They know you're a grass cutter, they know you're a pooper scooper, so they know what to sell you. And Jonathan, he probably was like an expert in marketing, well before there were experts in marketing. And somehow or another, his algorithm pushed across to me, and I just saw his way, and I couldn't tell you the year. And if I could, I'd almost be embarrassed by it because the knowledge that he imparts and the knowledge that he put out, um, you could take it, and if you really were to buckle down on it and get to work with it, you'd be leaps and bounds ahead
Yeah.
of where I am right now,
Yeah. No,
and we're not real far.
no doubt. Yeah. No
But
doubt.
probably,
I can
if I had
relate.
to put a
Similar
time on
story.
it, maybe 8 years.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I can relate. Very similar story. I was born in 1984 too. Just what month? What month? So you're 39?
June.
June. Okay. So you'll be 40 in June.
Yep.
Is that accurate? Am I doing my? Yeah. I'll
That's
be
right. Yep.
40 in November. So I'm a
Oh, nice.
1984 baby myself. And we have a similar path because just like you, I was just mowing yards. I had about a $300,000 a year mowing business in 2010. In 2011, we grew that to I think 450,000 or maybe 500,000 or so. But it was 2011 when I discovered the Lawn Care Millionaire and Jonathan Potosnik.
Mm.
And it didn't take me very long to figure out, being here in Collin County, north of Dallas, it didn't take me very long to figure out that this lawn care millionaire guy that I'm listening to on YouTube and learning, I mean, like you say, like the amount of value and the amount of information and the way that he was able to articulate it was a game changer for me. And then I figured out that he was literally my biggest competitor, the competitor in my local market that, in fact, I can remember years prior to discovering in 2011, discovering him on YouTube. I can remember calling his office because I liked their truck setups so much. Their flatbed Ford Rangers back then, I
Yeah.
liked them so much, I didn't know where to get them.
Score on it.
So I literally called their office and I asked, how can I buy do you have any used trucks for sale? Like I was trying to buy their trucks. So no, you and I have a very similar path. I discovered him back in about 2011, and from 2011 to 2016, 2017, he was very much so a mentor to me. I simply just copied what he was doing and what was clearly working. It started out with, requiring credit cards, and simple things like requiring credit cards and not being afraid of price increases and bringing value when you implement a price increase. And the things that he taught literally are the reason that I have the business that I have today. So you definitely were speaking my language when we were together, and we were doing the Q&A back in November, and you were speaking my language on your questions and just your excitement, because he has had an incredibly positive impact on my life.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, it really was like meeting a legend. It took me
Yes.
a minute to even get the words out. I was just fanboying hard because it was, he stepped back a little bit, which he
Yeah.
well deserved to get to take a step back. And Mike Andes kind of moved on in, and he started going really hard, and I started kind of modeling some things after Mike Andes, but Jonathan Potoshnik, he was that legend. So it's like, getting
Yeah.
to be in that room and watching him walk in there. It's like a lot of kids, like a lot of my guys. It'd be like them watching Jordan walk in the room, or I guess it's LeBron.
Right.
Jordan's not a thing anymore. I guess
Who,
Jordan's always
whoever
the
it is
thing,
of the
but
day. Yeah.
right, right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I
But
can very
Well,
much so
that's really
relate.
cool.
Go ahead, Marcus.
That's really cool that you were willing to reach out to a competitor at that stage of growth. It took me a few years to learn to be cool with your competitors. Early on, when you first start getting going, you look at the guys out there and they got the flashy trucks and the good blowers and all that stuff. I'm walking around with blower straps that tie together with strings, and they
Yeah.
smell horrible. And I see these guys riding by and they got the brand new Mac Daddy equipment. And it's like, what? How are they doing this? And it took nothing to just pick up a phone and be humble enough to say, hey, how are you doing
Yep.
this? And the crazy
Yep.
thing is, the knowledge is out there, and a lot of people are willing to help you. And there's so much out there that if you're willing to do the right thing, that it's there. It really is.
Yes. It's simply a matter of taking the steps and enduring. You have to have endurance. It's easy to do all the right things for 10 days or for 30 days or for that matter for 6 months. It's
Yeah.
about endurance over the years. And I can literally remember, I was fortunate enough to be able to build a relationship with Jonathan. So I had discovered him on YouTube. This is in 2011. And at the same time, I had brought in my business partner we had started Scoop Soldiers that same year. And the whole reason I discovered Jonathan and the Lawn Care Millionaire was because my business partner, I was still using spreadsheets. In case you didn't figure out from the beginning of this podcast, I'm not the most tech savvy individual. And so I was still using spreadsheets to manage 400 clients. I literally had a spreadsheet, a sheet for every day of the week. And depending on what zip code you were in, all your client information was on these spreadsheets. It was extremely archaic. And so I brought in this business partner that we started Scoop Soldiers, and he was also going to help me build this mowing business. And this is in 2011. And he introduced me to the Pet Waste Millionaire on YouTube. But he said, this guy, he's the owner of City Turf, but he also has this software, this technology that we should really look at called Service Autopilot. And so in May of 2011, I get on a call with Jonathan. Service Autopilot was so small at the time, I literally was able to just get on a call and talk to Jonathan. And I'll never forget, I had the most ignorant question. I said, Jonathan, here you have this technology, but you're my biggest competitor. I said, what's to say that you're not going to go into my Service Autopilot and take my clients? And Jonathan, in his most humble of ways, was like, EJ, Service Autopilot is going to dwarf City Turf by every measure. And he said it in the most humble way, in his way, but he said it's going to dwarf it. He goes, it would make zero sense for me to ever do something like that. And so from there, we had a really long conversation. It was like 2 hours. I took all of his time. But from there, I made it a point to say, can I buy you a meal every chance I get? Can I can we set something up? And for multiple years, we would get together every couple of months or every 6 or so months. And I remember, and I talk about endurance, after about 3 or 4 years, as my business had grown, I don't know, I think we had grown to like $1 million to $2 million, maybe right at $1 million. And it was really painful. Like the day to day was so miserable. The labor challenges and all the challenges that are frankly are notorious in this business, but they're notorious in all business. And I was just still immature. And so I literally was like messaging him, basically trying to get him to buy my business. I don't think I've ever told anybody this, but I was literally texting him, like trying to I was just so tired of my business.
Yeah.
And it was Jonathan who was like, what are you going to do if you sell your business to me? Like, what are you going to do? And he had a good point. Like, what was I going to do? And so he was always very much so like, stay the course, stay the course, stay the course. And I'm really glad I did, because he knew what I didn't know at the time. Like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You get to a certain scale, you're going to enjoy what you do. It took about 5 more years, but he's always been there figuratively and literally on YouTube, but also elsewhere to be able to help with those tough times. And that's what we're doing here with this podcast, and what we want to do in general is to inspire entrepreneurs in these industries to see through it, to build that endurance, because it's necessary. It's necessary for the long-term growth of anybody's business or anybody personally.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
and
Marcus,
that's amazing. Yeah.
I would love to know, because you mentioned that you are now in a position where you're trying to impact the younger generation, and it's not about you and surviving, it's about other people. So walk me through, like, what is it on the day-to-day that motivates you to keep on pushing?
Oh man, seriously. We had I don't know if you guys know Dan Ralphs or not, but Dan Ralphs was on a call with me about probably about a year ago, and he was asking me, what do you want? You know, don't tell me you want to grow to $3 million. Don't tell me you want to grow to $7 million. Like, what do you want? Don't give me a monetary value. And I told him, you know, I don't have to think about this very hard. You know, I wanna create a place where people can come and they don't know what they want to do in life yet, and they can actually move into a position, and maybe they find what they want to do in life, or maybe they just find a place they can sit for a while and they can be comfortable. I remember dropping out of high school and becoming a janitor at a place out here on Fort Benning, and I remember feeling depressed and feeling kind of worthless. And I was out there at the time, it was $6.85 an hour. And I remember feeling, you know, I'd see the soldiers and stuff out there, and I think, you know, these guys got careers. These guys are going in there doing something, and I'm just a janitor here. And I'd always remember what somebody told me when I was 14 and 15 years old, my first summer job. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And I'd always try to remember that. And as soon as I could jump onto a grass cutting crew from that janitor crew, and I was out there cutting grass, and I just started like, okay, take pride in what you do. Stop thinking about like, hey, I'm just a grass cutter. Take pride in what you do. Well, obviously, the money side of things is still there. You can take pride in something all day long. But we've moved over to P for P over this past year or two, and I've been able to see my guys take home, you know, 900 to. I've seen one guy take home a $1,700 paycheck, and you know how proud I was that week to watch a 19-year-old. He was 19 years old, take home a 17 or $1,800 paycheck. Dude, I was probably more proud about that paycheck than he was, you know, because I'm looking at something and I'm thinking about myself at 19 years old. I'm struggling to pay for diapers and meals, and I'm looking at this 19-year-old take home a 17 and $1,800 paycheck, and I'm thinking, you know, he can actually make a career with this. You know, my dream is to build a place that young people can come in here and they can look at that org chart on the wall and say, you know what, I want to be a grass cutter this year. And for the next 2 or 3 years, I want to go out here and I want to pour myself into that. Because some people, they don't want to, you cannot put me in an office and just have me sit there around people all day. I
Yeah.
get tired of looking at you guys. I just get sick and tired of it. I don't want to talk to the customers too much. I'd rather talk to their dogs than I'd rather talk to them. And a lot of times, I'm the type of guy, I want to be out there and I want to just be in my own thoughts, and I want to throw some Jonathan Potoshnik or some Mike Andes or maybe you guys. You know, I want to listen to some knowledge, and I don't want people staring me in my face all day. And there's so many people out there that's wired like that. I want to create a place where they
Hmm.
can come do that and get paid and be proud of what they do. And when they go to the barbecue on the weekend, it's not, oh well, you know, you still doing that grass cutting thing? It's like, yeah, man, I'm doing this grass cutting thing and I'm kicking tail.
Mm.
That's my
Yeah,
dream.
that's awesome.
I'm honestly one day I'm gonna build a shop and we're gonna have a swimming pool in the shop. We're gonna have an indoor swimming pool. We're gonna have a half court, and I know it sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
No.
We're gonna build like a
I
half court
had I had
basketball.
my office manager one year. My office manager one year said, "What would it take to get a swimming pool at the office?" And I thought she was nuts. I'm inspired though. That's a great idea.
I mean, you think about it. We get guys sometimes, these younger guys, and they come in and they're asking me stuff, and I'm by no means a genius, but they come in, they ask me, you know, hey, what do you think? I'm reading this book, Richest Man in Babylon. Oh, that's a great one, man. Pay attention to that one. It's really going to teach you about investing and all that good stuff. And I'll catch these guys come in at the end of the day, because now I've gotten stuck in an office position that I can't stand. But they come in at the end of the day, they're off of the clock for 2 hours. They're on P for P. They know they're not generating any revenue. 2 hours later, they're still talking to me. Their wives and their girlfriends or somebody's calling them and saying, "Hey, where are you at?" They might as well be in a swimming pool. You know, it'd be awesome. Get off of work and you're gonna hang out here anyways. Let's have a cool place for you to hang out. I want
Yeah,
my guys one day to be at the barbecue and they're like, "Yeah, I usually stay after work and swim for a while." That just sounds so
that's
awesome,
cool.
man.
Well, I mean, manifestation is a real thing, Marcus. You're going to make it happen.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
So we were, EJ and I were at another lawn and landscaping business this morning. We were doing a shop tour and we were talking to them. And so inside of their shop, one of the things that they have on a big poster is 3 things that define what winning is at our company. And right beneath it, it's talking about how we're here to help you build a career, not just be in a job, right? Exactly what you're talking about. And then right next to it, on an adjacent wall, it has a manager's position and their responsibilities and what that organization is holding that person accountable to, so that other people can see that. And in a positive way, it's giving clear direction on how you can impact your own life and build a career out of military lawn cuts. And I noticed right behind you, sir, is I assume core principles, values, something along those lines. Talk to me about that. I want to see that.
Yeah, so yeah, that's our core values there. The most important one I feel is at the top because that's the one when everything else is out the window. I don't care what you're going through. You can be in the darkest place in life, and if you've got that attitude of gratitude, it will center you, and
Mm.
it will bring some gravity to your life when you're just in a tailspin. There's something you're grateful for. You know, my son just lost his dog of
Mm-hmm.
8 years. And they were just shoulder to shoulder. I mean, they slept in the bed together. And this kid is, I mean, he's cologne and working out, physical fitness, and he's sleeping with a dirty dog. But that's just how much he loved his dog. And you know, I had to remind him, you know, why he's just beat up about it. You know, his dog was so important to him. I had to remind him, like, look, you need to be grateful that Bane was such a good dog. And just that spin of that attitude of gratitude. Of course, it doesn't take away the fact that you lost your buddy, but to think about the gratitude you've got that you get to hold on to, that gratefulness for that time that he
Mm-hmm.
did, that other people didn't get Bane, he was yours. And so I had last year a 24-year-old guy come in and he's telling me, you know, he did a couple years in the military and he couldn't follow um, our 19-year-old that's a crew leader that's been with us before he graduated high school and he worked his way up and he's a crew leader. He comes in and he's fussing bad. And I sit him in the desk across from me. It feels weird being in that position, but I tell him, look at that core value up there. We work together as a team. He is your team leader. Now here's the situation. The kid's name, never mind. Uh, but I looked at him and I said, hey man, you need to understand something. Here's this bucket right here. Our core values are inside this bucket. Right now, you're outside of the bucket. Now, I'm not telling you you got to work together as a team, but here at Mitchell Lawn, that's our core value. And if you're going to be here, you got to be in the bucket with us. And he looked at me and he said, you know what, I can understand that. And I like everything you guys got going on. I'm going to work on that core value and I'm going to work together as a team. He said, bring him in here. I'm going to shake his hand now. And it
Mm.
worked out. The core values keep even me in line. I've had my operations manager say, hey, uh, you know, we take accountability for our actions. You owe that guy an apology. You go take accountability and you
Mm.
apologize for the way you spoke to him because you would not have wanted somebody to speak to you like that while you were that age.
Yeah, EJ, you dismissed me at lunch recently. I need to hold you accountable to that situation. You owe
Yeah,
me an
the
apology.
difference is though, you say I owe you an apology as if I haven't given you 15 apologies. So the
I
question is, Ben, I held myself accountable. I totally forgot, and I did apologies. So the question is, this is just a little banter. Forgive us, Marcus. How many times do you expect me to apologize for forgetting that you were showing up to that lunch?
you said you apologized 15 times, 16 times. That's how many times I expect.
16. All right, Ben. I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, am so sorry that I forgot
Marcus,
you were going to be showing up to lunch.
all I wanted was to finally get it on record. I wanted the apology to be recorded. That's
He
all I
wanted it
wanted.
recorded.
All right,
No, in all seriousness, we had set up a lunch was set up for me actually. A gentleman reached out to me through LinkedIn. Awesome guy, a local franchisee here for a few different brands actually. He's a multi-brand franchisee, and he reached out. And my awesome marketing coordinator Sydney, she worked to set it up. Well, Ben helped coordinate it as well, and he was running late to this lunch. This was just last Friday. So he shows up about 10 minutes late, and and me and the gentleman had already sat down and we were talking. And Ben walks up, and you'd have thought I saw a ghost because when you're not expecting to see somebody, you're like it kind of like throws you back. It totally threw me off because I didn't realize he was coming to lunch. I'm really glad he came, but it totally missed it. So, and I'm not very good at hiding or like faking that stuff. Like I could have just played it off like, oh yeah, good to see you, Ben. Sit down. We got you. Here's your menu. I didn't at all. I was like, Ben, I'm so sorry, but I didn't realize you were showing up here today.
You didn't have to say it out loud.
There's honest and trustworthy up there too. So
Exactly.
That character, you're gonna keep it
That's
real.
awesome.
If there's nothing else, I'm gonna at least keep it real. Maybe sometimes too real.
That'll get you in
It's a
trouble
good thing.
sometimes, right?
It will. I can relate to what you said about that. I wasn't kidding. That's why Ben's on here. It's to keep me on track, and because sometimes I'm just going to go way off track. He helps bring it back.
Yeah, I'm
And
pretty
for a
good.
change, I got us off track.
You did.
Yeah, so it's my bad. I'll take accountability for that one. My bad. So, Marcus, you have obviously a few others values on that board. What's one other one that is really important to you guys?
So they're all equally of importance.
Sure.
Obviously,
Yeah.
that attitude of gratitude, really means. To me, it's it because a lot of times you're gonna come into work, especially when you're in the grind, and it's gonna be worse than the day's gonna be worse. How do you say this? There's gonna be more bad days than good days when
Sure.
the road really meets the road. It's most people outside of a lot of owners, I guess, but I'd say even the owners get so bogged down. EJ, you said you were there when y'all were around $1 million. Before we could break into $1 million, I was definitely there. I felt like it was kind of killing me, really. Um, but that attitude of gratitude, I gotta stop the guy sometimes. I'll see him dragging in here, and I can just tell this is the last place they want to be. And a lot of times I remind them, look, try to remember that first day you got here, and you were needing this. You try to remember that and try to get yourself back there. Um, but taking pride in our work and how it impacts our community, I try to remind the guys that it's not just about you taking pride in it, but I had a client one time call me up, and he had one of the most difficult yards, and you had to push mow the whole thing. It's up on a hill. He wanted to sit out there and watch you. And there was one week where he wasn't out there, and the guy said, "Hey, he wasn't out there." The guy called me up 2 days later and said, "Hey, man, I'm really thank you guys for always being there. Um, I didn't have to stay out there. I wasn't even home, but my yard looks amazing. I gotta let you know, I just lost my wife." And it's like, wow, man, that is tough. But imagine he would have gotten home and the yard would have been a mess because it's the one time he didn't watch the guys. And
Mm-hmm.
on top of this
Mm-hmm.
huge thing, a 50-year marriage, and he gets home, and that's the last thing he wants to see is the gate got left open and grass clippings all over but he gets home, and one of the important things in his life that's least of importance at this time, he calls the lawn man up and says, "Hey guys, thank you." And obviously he wanted to talk. He wanted to talk about a tough time in his life,
Right.
and took the opportunity to talk to him a little bit. But I try to remind the guys that some of these ladies we service their yards, their husbands service their yard for 20 years, and we'll never measure up to that man. We never will. But the last thing she wants to see is your young self jumping out, whipping through this yard real fast like you don't care about it, flinging the gate open, running to the truck and leaving. You need to at least say hello to her. If she offers you a cold glass of water, hey, pour it on a plant or something, but be friendly because this matters to her. so much. You might
Yep.
be doing 1 out of 15 yards that day, but this is the one job she's looking at. You need to take pride in your work, and not just pride in your work for us, but how it's impacting our community, because it matters.
Yeah, it
Hmm.
matters a lot. And, I always tell our team members in that same vein, it's incredible how much of a response you can get by simply smiling. If you see a homeowner, if you see their neighbors, if you see somebody just walking down the street, just literally smiling and putting a smile on your face has
Yeah.
really an infinite domino effect of positivity just by simply smiling as opposed to frowning when you're out and about your day.
Mm. No, absolutely. Hey, I did want to circle back on something if y'all let me. Um, EJ, you mentioned y'all went from, like 450,000 up to a million within a year or two, 2 years, somewhere around there. Um, I think
Yeah.
a large part of that was you surrounding yourself around Jonathan. And there's something I heard
Oh,
Tommy Mello
absolutely.
say on a podcast a while back. He says, and it's a cheap one-liner, I guess, but it's your network, or yeah, your net worth is your network, or your
Your
net
yeah,
worth is
yeah,
your net
net your
worth.
network equals your net worth. Yes. That's actually there
Right.
was a the man who married my wife and I, he's a pastor. His name's Joel Scrivener. But he also he's written some books or a book. He was a world champion, but his entire book is very much so. What did you just call it? It's almost cliche, so to speak. But at the same time, it's only cliche because we've heard it before. We've heard it numerous times, so many people have not heard that. But and I honestly, I agree with that specifically. You mentioned your net worth is equal to your network is equal to your net worth, which however it goes. I know what you're saying, and I
Yeah.
used to not like that. I didn't like the spirit in that saying, because it's almost as though you're equating relationships with a net worth with
Mm-hmm.
financial gain. And if you're only going about it, that's disingenuous. If you're only going about it for that reason, that's just disingenuous. But I say I used to not like it. I like it now because I understand the premise. And as long as you're looking at it from the proper lens and you're not looking at it from like a cynical or a negative lens,
Right.
then it's absolutely rings true. Who you have relationship with, who you hang, or it goes right back down to everything that our mothers and our fathers taught us. Who you hang
Mm-hmm.
out with is going to dictate who you become, or what you get out of life. You hang out with, I've recently started using this comment. You hang out with ducks, you're going to be a duck. You hang out with eagles, you're going to be an eagle.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to hang out with a bunch of ducks. Another way to put it is, you want to hang out with a bunch of Eeyores, or you want to hang out with Tigger, if you
Yeah.
think of Winnie the Pooh. But there's so much truth to that. And it doesn't stop when you become an adult that who you hang out with matters, and that rubs off on you in a positive or negative way. It actually matters whether you're 18 years old or whether you're 50 years old. Who you're associating with and the attitudes of the people you're going to associate with is going to have an automatic effect. Another one I like to that same note is, you are the, now I'm going to butcher this one too. You are the, Ben, help me with this.
You're the sum
You're
of the
you're the
five.
sum of the five people. Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Sorry, a little delay there, but you are the sum of the five people you spend the most time with. So much truth in that. It all goes to association, and that's why YouTube is so magical, because you can be in the
Yeah.
worst environment
Right.
and maybe you don't have complete control of your environment. Though I would argue that most people do have more control than they let on. But maybe you don't have in that immediate moment the most control of your environment. Maybe you work in a toxic environment for that time and you don't have other opportunities at the immediate moment. But YouTube is always there, and you can always go there to learn attitude and mindset, and to get and to associate through video, to associate with the people
Mm-hmm.
and the mindsets that you're maybe striving to be.
Yeah. No, I agree. But on the same note, I feel like YouTube can get you in trouble as well, because I feel like you can follow the wrong ones. I know Mike Andes kind of was going back and forth with some guys because there's so much, get rich quick stuff out there, and it's like,
Hmm.
man, I can go pressure wash, in my part time and make $500,000 this year. And it's like, bro, do you understand how many O-rings that guy blown out of his pressure washer and couldn't get a job done? Do you know how many L's that man has
Right.
taken to get? And do you really understand what it's going to take to go and do what he's
Right.
maybe being truthful about, maybe not? So
Yeah. It
it's a good versus evil when it comes to their social media game.
No, you're exactly right. You've got to be mindful of what you're listening to and recognize that because anybody can do it,
Hmm.
anybody can do it. So you've got to use good sense. You've got to use, I say good sense. You got to use common sense, and you got to recognize that not everybody on YouTube necessarily has the exact same philosophies. And you're right. You've got to find that's what it is. You got to find the people on YouTube that share a lot of your mindsets and philosophies. You can usually find that. If you're looking to get rich quick, those get rich quick guys are quite entertaining. You're going to probably end up with some pain and some heartache before you learn. You're going to learn some hard lessons. But the people usually looking for get rich quick are usually they're going to find that. They're going to find that justification. But if you're not looking for that, you're going to usually spot that real quick and recognize that that's not exactly wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to that, your network, your net worth. Show me your friends. I'll show you your future. That's one thing I really want to do with my guys. I don't have quite enough influence yet, but I really want to get the cracking on creating a locally. I want to start locally with just my crew and my team, and then I'd like to reach out to the city at a certain point where we're doing like almost a monthly meeting where I bring a banker in and we eat
Yeah.
breakfast, and that banker actually talk to these guys about financial budgeting and what the banks
Literacy.
look for. I've been inside like my hardware store, and I've heard guys in there filling out applications to try to get a Sheffield financial, a loan on a mower, and I hear them say, oh, the loans are only good for old folks. Loans are only good. They know when you fill out that paper, they know where you came from in your background. They know who your mom and dad are, and what they don't understand is the bank does not care what you look like and where you came from. What the bank cares about is, are you going to make them rich? That's
Are you
that's
going to
all they
pay your
care about.
payment?
Are you going
Yes.
to pay
Are they
that
going?
payment? And is that loan officer going to get paid because you made good on that thing? And
Yeah.
I want to. So some of the guys that, and I'm sure you guys have some people on the team that they they don't even know, because of where they come from and because of who they hang around. They don't even know that there's cool people out there. There's cool people out there that work in the bank. There's mortgage
Yeah.
officers that are awesome people that would be so willing to say, "Hey man, give me your number. Yeah, let's do lunch." And I want to force that into my
Yeah.
company. I
Mm.
want to do like a once
Bro,
monthly. I'd love for
Have
one of
you
y'all.
have
So,
you ever joined the
so I
chamber meetings? I'm sorry, man. I didn't
oh,
mean to
no,
talk
I
over
haven't.
you. There's a little bit of a delay. Have you ever joined chamber of commerce or been to any chamber meetings in your community?
No, I haven't. I've been invited a couple times, so I've never taken advantage of it.
That is, I've been to some. I haven't done a good job always at showing up to those kinds of things. I'm more of the introvert that likes to hide, to be totally honest with you. So I've never been very good at the chamber meetings. But what you're talking about is the in there. That's literally what the Chamber of Commerce really does. Is and I say that they do a lot of things. It's a lot of networking. But the point is,
Yeah.
there's always bankers, there's always realtors, there's always people at the chamber meetings who really feel called to educate on their thing, on their expertise. And you can join the chamber meeting, and then you can work those relationships. And people, like you say, bankers, mortgage brokers, other business leaders in your community are always more than willing to come and talk to your team members. But I would encourage, start with the chamber, because yes, you can go to the chamber, you can build those relationships, and then you can bring those people into your team. And yes, There is a serious lack of financial literacy at all levels. Financial
Yeah.
literacy is not something that is taught in school in any capacity. I mean, I think they taught me how to write a check in school, which isn't really financial literacy. I don't even think they teach you
Believe
about bank
now.
accounts. But financial literacy is something that I think the more you can teach your people about financial literacy, the more you're elevating those individuals, but you're also elevating your business, because as they get good and get under and begin to understand how how financials work, how the financial world works, they're going to bring that perspective to your business. And even if they're in a manual labor position, they're going to see it differently if they have financial literacy.
So I want to bring us a part two to that conversation. So Marcus, you and I have talked back and forth about social media and what do you create, what do you do. So I'm giving you a sneak peek into. I'll see you next week on Wednesday. So I'll give you a sneak peek into one of the things I want to talk about. Um, so I think number one, social media is not necessary for every business. In the home services, it's not necessarily going to bring you money day one. It is an investment in the long term growth if you're trying to build a brand. But if it is something that you want to commit to, if you know that you have a specific, you Marcus have a specific message that you want to get out there to a specific audience, you have the ability to take the conversations that you're having with those bankers, with those other individuals, record it and publish it. And that is an area of opportunity for you. It's something you're interested in. It's something you know you can have an impact in, and facilitating that message in that conversation to a lot of different people. And it doesn't require a crazy amount of effort. So I think that there's a potential for you, if you want to focus on, creating social media, to gather those individuals together. Like I know you just did something with insurance agents at your shop, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So throwing some cameras up, a phone, literally just a phone, throwing a phone up and recording that conversation, even though they may be talking to an audience, you can still record it and you can have a conversation back and forth with that person. And then you can publish that on social media and you've killed two birds with one stone, so to speak. But
Right.
again, you and I've talked about this, about wanting to do it, not sure what to do, and you yourself, you mentioned like it's not natural for you to speak on camera, and you're not really, what I'm
Not
saying,
at
like
all.
it's not natural for most people. So I think that is an area of opportunity for you, potentially to lean into. That again, I think can have a major impact both for your internal team, but also for others.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm writing a couple notes down. If I'm looking down, I'm kind of writing notes down as we go, because you
No,
guys, EJ, you've done some amazing things, and Ben, you're doing some amazing things. I mean, I really appreciate you guys. Yeah, that's awesome.
don't worry. On Wednesday, I'm at my speech, whatever, is going to be interactive, and I'll include you in it. I'm going to force you
Oh,
into it,
nice.
actually.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah.
I'm kidding. Um, awesome, man. So
One other
I'm curious. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
one other thing, just before we get all the way away from it, um, you know, Mike Callahan was talking to me one time, and he was telling me about how they were at the a service autopilot deal where it's like an expo where he was speaking out to everybody, and he said at the time he ran a lawn service, and he was saying his biggest competitor was sitting in the audience, and somebody had asked him, hey man, you know that's your biggest competitor, and you're giving him the game. You're giving him the game. And early on, I was thinking the same thing about Jonathan. When I first ran across this stuff, it was like, man, he's giving us the game. Like, what's to stop me from moving out here to Plano or Fort Worth where he's at, and he's taking over, and for me to do him in. Uh, there's one spot and I'm probably gonna butcher it, but there's one spot in the richest man in Babylon where he had gotten so rich and all the city's money had funneled to him in some miraculous way, and everybody else was just kind of there. And the leaders go to him and say, hey, you know what? We see what you're doing here, and you're about to teach this to the city because we want to have the most prosperous city around. And he looks at him and says, hey, I'm not going to withhold anything from you. As a matter of fact, set it up. I'll teach it. I'll teach it to everybody. And I'm adding my own version to this. But he says, I'll teach it to them. Set it up. I'll do a whole seminar for these guys. But here's the thing, I can teach it, but then they have to do it. So, and Mike Andy said it a couple years ago. Everybody doesn't have that capacity, and it's not that, uh, uh, you know, Jim Bob's mowing over here is any worse or better than you because he wants to run a $250,000 company. He's got his niche and he's got his thing that he's doing, and he wants to be there. He doesn't want to be a $10 million company. The $10 million company is going to have him going crazy like EJ, you were so many years ago. And I had to really realize that the getting to know people and actually, for one, sharing knowledge back to them, for one, it gets it deeper inside of me because I'm trying to teach it to him. But for two, it makes him better and it causes him to raise his standards up. And it's not a
Yes.
matter of like, oh, well, he's going to come back and he's going to kick my tail. No. If he's going to kick my tail, he's probably going to do it anyways, whether he had my
Yeah.
knowledge or not.
You mentioned Tommy Mello earlier, the home services millionaire. He wrote that book, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Tommy Mello. I was listening to a podcast. It was a keynote actually that he had put on YouTube, and he actually talks about how he invited all of his competitors in all of his, in the garage door business. He invited all of his competitors to his house. And at the time, he was, if I understood him correctly, he was charging a lot more money than all of these competitors. He was charging, pretty high premium. And one of the competitors raised their hand in his house and said, "How do you sleep at night? How do you sleep at night charging?" I forget. I think he used an example, charging $8,000 for a garage door that cost you $1,700. And he turned it back on them and he says, "Well, how do you sleep at night?" He said, I have salespeople and technicians that make a really good living because they're really good at what they do. You can't afford to pay your people what they're worth because you don't charge your clients enough. It's all about building value." And by the end of the meeting, he had convinced all of the competitors that he had invited over that they were underpricing, they were undervaluing their service. And it was a big change in their marketplace because the low ballers tend to drag you down, and they don't produce excellence. They hurt the
Mm-hmm.
industry. So when you teach your competitors excellence, excellence begets excellence. It creates more excellence. It is not a finite thing. It's a multiplier. It's just like it's anything in economics. Talking about financial literacy, so many people have this mindset that money is somehow finite. Well, money hasn't been finite as long as we've been alive. It wasn't. It was finite in the '60s when there was a gold standard. But as soon as we went off of a gold standard, money's not finite. Literally, the pies create more pies.
Right.
Finances in financial literacy creates more financials. It creates more wealth. And so I believe that the more you can help your competitors in an industry, again, the industry is not finite. The industry can grow. And really that's in
Right.
any industry. Think about the restaurant industry in 1971 or 1970, 50 years ago, whatever. The restaurant business. Just because a restaurant, maybe you had a successful restaurant and next door another guy opened another restaurant. That wasn't taking money out of the pocket of the existing restaurant. You were simply creating more pies. You're creating more flow of money. And this is an area that even I don't fully understand enough to articulate. But like you said, the more you talk about it, the more you work to educate and you collaborate with people, the more you yourself even learn and understand.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a
But
lot of it is an abundance mindset. You know, you can have a poverty mindset of, is it out there? And I think the one of the issues is a lot of us. I grew up, kind of poor. I mean, I was taken care of pretty well, but I mean, I saw divorce happen. And I saw major financial strain happen. I saw water getting cut off. I saw electricity getting cut off at time. And you know, when you get into the business and you start making a little bit of money for yourself and you start gaining some control, you know, you can kind of have that poverty mindset. And it was Jonathan that kind of got me out of that poverty mindset, seeing him just give and give and give knowledge. It's like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
you know, I heard one quote by somebody, and they said, the competitor you need to be worrying about is the competitor not worried about you. You know, and it's like, when I heard that, it's like, man, I'm not looking at another lawn service going down the road ever again. You know, as a matter of fact, if I look at them, I'm waving at them and I'm saying, hey, how you doing? You know, I want to
Right.
make sure I'm not out here worried about the wrong thing, because if I am so worried about, you know, somebody getting ahead of me and where am I at, then, you know, I'm focused on the wrong thing. You know, Tony Bass said he went to a seminar one time, or Tony Bass, he's the super lawn trucks guy. He's right over here close to us in Georgia. Builds these big Mac Daddy rigs, big box trucks. DOT loves them things. But so he says he's at one of the expos, and he said he saw, he's doing an expo with like his lawn truck people, and two landscapers walk by him, and the first guy walks by him, and he knew him from the business, and he seemed to be struggling a little bit, and he said, man, the market is horrible, and I don't, it's all these undercutters are out here, and I don't know, I'm probably going to get out of the business. And it wasn't long after that, another guy come by, and he had some students with him, and he tells them, man, this is about to be a banner year for me and my company.
Yep.
And he did like a part-time teaching, and you know, at the end of it, he said, man, I really learned something that day from these guys. You know, they're speaking where they work. And now, obviously, the guy that's gonna have a banner year, he's gonna have to go out and cut some freaking grass out there, right? I mean, he's gonna have to go. He can't just speak it and then go sit down and download all the money. But you know, he's gonna have to go do it. But the guy with the poverty mindset, he's just, it is what it
Yeah.
is.
It's all about mindset and execution.
Yeah, yeah. The
You
execution.
got to execute. You can't just have the positive attitude, but you can't really execute with a negative attitude either. So you got to have the mindset of a positive attitude or be in a positive frame of mind. But then you have to execute. And if you don't have both of those, you can't really you can't you're really not going to get anywhere. You can have a positive attitude all day long. If you can't execute it, you're going to go nowhere. I think that's one of the most common things you see today. Is it's easy to listen to some YouTube guys and get real positive and yeah, I'm going to have a positive attitude, but it's all about the execution. That's
Yeah.
the difference.
Yeah, the positive attitude in the videos, and it's I heard it illustrated as you get it in waves. It's like waves in an ocean, and that's the inspiration, but then the wave goes back out, and without the
Yeah.
discipline of standing strong there and pushing forward, you can get waves all the time. As a matter of fact, you can get waves till you get a headache, because you've heard so many inspirational videos, so much David Goggins and Tony Robbins and all this great stuff. And it's like, sure, it gets you pumped up and it's got you a good positive focus. But the problem is that positive focus goes away when you get out here on this job and you lost some money. When you get out here on this job and you're
Right.
not cutting the grass like her husband used to cut the grass, and you gotta
Right.
get humble, you know.
So I really want to know when you're going to be writing your book, Marcus. That was awesome.
A book, a bunch of other people I've already. It just blippets from everybody else's books, and I'll just write my own.
Look,
That's the beginning of most all books.
yeah, 100%. And I guarantee you, in your process of pulling all this information from other people that have inspired you, as you begin to write it, you end up finding your own message in that. I guarantee you, that's how it works. Or you can
That's
create
awesome.
social media posts, one or the other.
If I can,
So,
I almost hold my breath when I talk on social media. I cannot get over that.
yeah, dude, I'm right there with you. I understand it. But again, as DJ was saying, it's all in a matter
Practice
of
makes
execution.
perfect.
You get the
That's
reps.
right. Yeah, over time. So Marcus, I really find it incredibly important, and it's non-negotiable, so to speak, on our podcast, to give you, our guest, a minute or however long you'd like to take, and any kind of message that you have that you want to get out there, whether it's to your team members, whether it's to just the general public, or any entrepreneurs, any struggling business owners, anything you want to say. I want to give you a second to share anything that you feel is important.
Okay.
I know I
Um,
promised to not put you on the spot, but now I am.
yeah, no, you're good. No, that's awesome. Um, I guess something, you caught me right at the tail of our season where we're slow, and it's tough. I was telling my operations manager earlier that it's the only stress I've got right now. It's not a matter of being overworked. It's a matter of being underworked. And I was telling him, I said, man, I'm so glad March is right around the corner. That darn groundhog. I really hope he's right this year. He says we're going to get an early spring, and that's exciting. And I looked at him and I said, but I'll be honest with you. I really, financially, I'm okay. I can pay my bills. We've built to a certain point where it's okay. But I was telling, Keith, who's my operations, I said, sometimes I feel like I'm more worried about it than my guys are. I'm worried about their hours. That's what I'm really worried about. That's,
Mm.
if I see I can only provide 25 hours for a guy, it's like, man, what can I do? I got to get him out here and wash my truck, or we got to go, do somebody's yard for free or something. We got to figure something out to pad some hours. Um, this has not changed in 20 years. We're getting smarter as we go to build out work, to do a little more marketing, and we're getting smarter as we go. But I think in the service industry period, whether you're car detailing, whether you're pressure washing, whatever you're doing, service industry, I feel we're the first one to get cut. After Christmas and after holidays, people, their money gets tight. It is what it is. It's the market. It's what is the market demanding at that time, and you're at service and you're at beck and call to the market. And what I would say, my thoughts, especially lately, have been, some of these younger guys that are just getting into the business, and they might see if we're struggling and we've got 650, reoccurring clients in the on season, and that busts down to 450 in the off season. If we're struggling, what about the guy that's padded out to 50 and 60? Where's he at? That he's probably over here working a part-time job. What I'd like to say is like, hey, look, that's just a wave. The wave just went out, and the wave, it's coming back. But you got to stand strong, because that wave might have dragged you out some as it went out. And it just is what it is. It's not your fault. It's not anything you did wrong. Maybe you could have worked a little harder on marketing. Maybe you could have landed another cleanup or two. But for the most part, you're in a service industry. You're at discretion of what the market is providing in our business, for sure. And I would say, especially young in the business, stand strong. Don't retreat. At the first sign that things, man, I just had a really rough winter. Like, you're probably gonna have a rough winter next winter too. But spring is coming, and it's time to gear up and get ready to go kick ass. So you just stand strong where you are and keep pushing forward. Don't retreat back. That's really been on my mind and my heart lately, and I'm really trying to, Ben, you said it to me the other day. As the owner of the company, it's my job to instill or create stability for my team. And that's one thing that I'm trying to, when I come in and I tell my guys, hey, look, you just got 5 jobs today. Don't worry, you got 20 more working days until March hits. And these weekly contracts, they pick back up. And this one that you hated, you're going to love to see them March 1st. This cleanup
Yeah.
that in the middle of the summer you would have hated to go do, you're going to be begging to go do that thing now, because that's going to be your first $1,000 paycheck that week, buddy. So just hold tight. It's coming. And I guess, just understanding, or kind of being ready for the seasons of life, because
Hmm.
the seasons are there, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's going to be those thriving seasons, and there's going to be those down seasons. You know, it's just a matter of learning how to, for one, emotionally and mentally know that they're coming, but also preparing ahead of time. You know, Solomon said the ant, how he worked so hard and he got ready, and you know, we got to learn to be more like the ant sometimes.
If it wouldn't be weird, I'd get up and scream because you just got me like jazzed up. Let's go. I love it. That was awesome. That was good, man. So I'm actually I thought about this last week, and I felt inspired, but I didn't do anything about it, and it kind of it bugged me, and so I'm gonna do it today. Marcus, would you mind if I prayed us out?
Absolutely, I'd love it, man.
Sweet, awesome. Let's do it. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the time and space that we have had today to be able to connect with people who are across the country and get to have a conversation about the kind of people that we want to become, the kind of impact that we want to have, both in our team members' lives and in our communities. And Jesus, we're thankful that you are the inspiration and you are what fulfills us and provides for us to be able to do those things. Heavenly Father, as Mitchum Lawn Care and the team is about to head into their spring, God, we pray that you would inspire Marcus and his team leaders to equip his team members with mindset, with action, with structure and stability to be able to go and execute and impact people's lives in the most positive way possible. God, we ask that you bless his business and you bless his team. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you, and I really
Amen.
appreciate that.
Marcus, it's a pleasure
Amen.
to have you, sir. Thank you for the time today, truly. And
Egypt,
yeah,
thank you,
I'm
man.
grateful and looking forward to your spring and watching you grow.
Hey, just so we can get this live, both of y'all, when I get my monthly going, I need one of y'all, both of y'all, to do a conference call with us, and y'all, I need my guys to meet you guys sometime and know that they got friends that are doing amazing things.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. We're here to support. That's really what the vision of White Picket is.
Hmm.
White Picket team and what Ben's working on every day alongside Scoop Soldiers and Shoreby. So absolutely, whenever that time comes, make sure you reach out to us.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you guys.
I'll echo that, man. And if we can make it work, where one of us can be in person in Alabama, we want to do that too. I think that there's an opportunity for that, dude. Seriously, I think there's an opportunity for us to be able to do something like that, and we love to add value in whatever way we can. So I appreciate you reaching out on that behalf, though.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, cool.